Okay, I've been demonstrating glazes in my online The Messy Middle course, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to do palette to painting with just glazes. So I'm going to start off by putting some transparent paint onto my palette. This is quinacridone magenta, which is fully transparent. For my glazes, I use transparent paints or I use half and halves. I'm also using a Southern Ocean blue. Just put a bit there onto the palette. I'm using my favorite, which is Liquitex Fluorescent Pink. I get a nice big amount of that on there. And Dioxide Purple. Nice and dark, but also transparent. And just to bring some lightness to it, I'm using transparent yellow oxide. And if I can squeeze any more out of my tube, some Australian yellow green, but you can use any green gold, green yellow. It actually looks very yellow when you spray water on it. I'm going to use these at the moment, and if I bring anything else in, as in some transparent whites, then I'll let you know. But just to kind of give you an idea of what these colours look like without even thinking about the painting, I'm just going to put some of this one down, nice and thickly, with just my palette knife. I quite like using spreaders when I'm working with glazes like this. I don't really use too many brushes. I use my wedges, and I use palette knives, and I use squeegees. That's kind of what I'm going to be demonstrating today. So I've got a nice bit of greeny blue on there now. I'm just going to spray some water on it and let my squeegee do the work. Beautiful spread across the page. The thing with working with the transparents and glazes is that the colours that they make when they combine together is really beautiful, which you'll see as I get into the more colours. This is the quinacridone magenta, which when mixed with that tealy sea green turns quite purpley, that you might be able to see in there. And I'll bring out my wedges to get a little bit more action happening. So that's the beautiful magenta, and I'll bring now some of that, my favorite, the fluorescent pink. When I spread the fluorescent pink, when it's wet, the two pinks blend together as opposed to it sitting on top. Sometimes when I do this, I dry in between, but just for the sake of keeping this going, I'm just going to keep going and see what the colours do when they mix. Here's that beautiful fluoro pink on its own. Get a nice amount of that on there. Like getting it nice and bleeding across off the palette as well as on. See what it does when it hits that pink, and let's see what it does when it hits that green. See, it goes at a nice deep purple when it hits the green, so I quite like doing combos of them. Now we'll bring in something a little bit different. I'll bring in some of the other two colours that I have on here just to show you how bright and beautiful they can be. Just get something else to spread. This is a green gold. Look at that. it punches anything. And I don't tend to use it that much as a straight colour, but I love what it does when it hits all the other colours. So I'll just spread that a little bit over the pink. See, it almost goes this beautiful orange, and it sends that magenta up into a different direction at all, which is really lovely. And then when it's on its own, look at these beautiful colours that it makes when it gets a little bit dirtier. So it's quite nice to bring a little bit of dirty sort of brown, yellow brown. And this is the difference when I use the yellow oxide. It's a lot golder in colour. I'm hoping you can see that. And that again creates a beautiful colour when it goes over that pink. It's very orangey but yummy. And let's see what that does when it hits the green. So we'll bring a bit more of it in here and a little bit of it across on the blue here. Oh, that's so yummy. When you've got those two colours happening here, it's just beautiful. It's actually three colours. You've got the magenta, you've got the brown, and you've got that beautiful green underneath, and it's doing some gorgeous combos across there. I'm going to bring a little bit more of that blue in somewhere else. Where's my squeegee? If they're not spreading, if they're a bit thick, because I haven't really added too much water to my palette, then just bring the water to the paper. And the reason why I call this palette to painting is that I'm not doing any colour mixing anywhere but on here. So it's, I'm just really demonstrating colours, but demonstrating what they can do. And then at the end of it, you'll see that we can get some really beautiful crops that can happen in the painting. And it's quite nice when you spread out your light colours and you've got a white piece there, because that in itself can create these lovely light colours to the painting. And I don't mind all these bits and bobs of colours spreading, because that adds a bit of depth and interest to a painting that I'm only really going to give one layer to. My paintings tend to be a lot more layers than that, but this one I'm hoping to create something that is only one layer, so I don't mind getting all that history that's going on underneath there. Okay, a little bit more of a pop with that pink. I mean, it does have lots of pink, but, you know, I don't think you can ever have too much pink. So I'm just going to bring a little bit more pop here through the centre. Actually creates a really nice kind of like almost neutrally colour when you put that green and that pink together. I quite like that, so I'll just get a bit more of that going on. Right, what I might do now, I do have the dioxide purple, which I haven't used yet, but I will bring that on. But before, oh, actually I might bring that on before I go to the lights. So I'll just get it a little bit more water on my palette with that, and I'll grab quite a hard brush, and then I'll bring it into some areas on here. And it's good to, when you're putting paint on, take it all the way off, so you're getting nice big strokes across your painting. You're not getting things that end too short. I like my paint to go all the way off a painting. So I'm going to do that a little bit in different places. Nice chunky piece there. And then I might just put some water and spread that a little bit so it's not so... Look at what that the purple is. It just creates a nice difference. Gives you something else to work with. I'm creating quite a much bigger piece, but you'll see when I get to the end, I'm going to crop in. I'm not going to leave it as a big painting. I'm just doing this to show all the colours, and then I'll crop in to find somewhere nice that I like amongst it all. If you've seen sixes, and you know, a lot of people do the sixes and the tape does the cropping, this is the opposite way of that. You use the crop after on a big piece, and it can really bring up some beautiful surprises in the same way that tape does when you take it off your palette. So now I've definitely got a lot happening, a lot of pop, a lot of colour. And rather than even going to drying, I'll just, often if I want something to dry a little bit quicker, I want to get some of the fluid off the paint, I'll just use my cloths to get rid of it, to get rid of some of the wetness. And then I'm going to bring some transparent white, just to give it that other dimension. So I'll just put some white onto my palette, and it's not going to matter to me if it does mix with some of the colours. In fact, I want it to mix with some of the colours. I love it when I'm not even really planning for what colour I'm going to get, and I'm just going to bring some in to give me that other element to it, bringing in those whites. And obviously, because it's not dry, it's going to mix with what's underneath, but I quite like that as well. I'll just keep kind of adding lighter colours, so that lighter as in more white to some of these colours, so that it still pops. Like there, when I first put it on, it's kind of nice and bright, and then it gets duller as it hits all the other colours. I love my neutrals, but I also love neutrals when they're transparent and they just show what they're still showing the history of what's happening underneath. And I love seeing what happens to these colours when they hit each other. That's the kind of nice surprise for me. Nice opaque colours peeking through. Putting them in different areas just to create some. And I've left this big bit of pink on the side that I might try and bring a little bit of white into that pink and see what it does. Where's my other squeegee? Just make sure I've got no paint on that one. Reason I call myself the messy artist is that I'm quite happy to wipe my squeegees directly on my clothes to stop me having to find anything in the process. Some of my students can get quite a shock when I plaster myself with paint. I wonder what would happen, and I often do this, I wonder what would happen if I just put white straight onto the squeegee and then use it in the painting. Just to get a little bit more interest going on through some of the areas. Pretty sure I've used most things that are on my palette now, but you know, I can't see too much of that green anymore, so I'm going to choose to bring some more of that back. I'll grab another type of palette knife and I might just bring some sweeps of it back in. And it's quite different when you put it over the top. Look how beautiful and bright it was when I used it straight on the white palette, but it gets a lot darker when it's in the middle of the painting. So again, my question is what will happen if I try and blend that a little bit more and see what's underneath and see whether it's anything that lights me up. Take it off the painting. I'm just having fun with it. I'm just having fun seeing what all the different colours do. I'm not sure that I brought too much of that on. That quinacridone magenta can probably come back in. And actually, if I mix it with that yellow oxide, I'm going to get quite a nice almost orangey pink. Okay, so I put this pink on and I want to just blend it. You can see when you put too much paint on in one spot, it kind of blends in a kind of odd way. So that's fine. I'm just experimenting. I'm not too concerned about it. Whenever I get in this state and it all feels like it's getting too blending, I'll bring in some white or I'll bring in something very, very dark. So I haven't got much of my fluoro left, which is a shame because I love my fluoro and it's a nice thing to pop it on top. Let's see if I can get some. Oh yeah, I've got some left in here, which is awesome. If it just needs a little bit of something, once you've gone over it and you've created a little bit too much kind of grey, then I like bringing, the good thing about transparency is you can always bring them over the top and you're still creating some good stuff because it's not hiding everything that's underneath. I use a lot of transparent paints, a lot of glazes in my work, and I just bring in the whites and the blacks or the whites and the very dark colours to balance them. But the transparents work so beautifully. So I've got lots of interesting stuff happening here. I might just bring in a different colour on top. So instead of the yellow oxide, I'm going to bring in some of this Australian sienna, which is a little bit of a fave of mine. It's looking pretty wet, but you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway and see what I get. I'm just going to literally just put it straight onto there. I'm going to grab one of my wedges that I haven't used yet. I really do love what these yellows and pinks create. I don't like taking off too much of the real pure colour when I come in at this point. And that purple and that colour together is just yummy. And you can see it when you go against the entire, just the complete white paper that still is around the sides that I can cover. I want to make sure I get all the white covered in. Just grab some more of that and balance it by putting some down, a little bit in this corner. little bit up here. Whew, well, covered over. I think the only thing that I really need to do is bring in some more of the transparent, a little bit, the transparent white. So I'm just going to grab a clean brush. I've got lots of white on here. That's mixing a little bit with the other colours, but I don't mind that. As I said, I quite like the light pinks and yellows getting in there and then adding them in. Just gives that light, slightly more mutedness somewhere. And I don't want that to be exactly the same here, so I'm just going to spread it a little bit differently. That edge. Now, when you're working wet on wet like this, you do have to just kind of allow those accidents to happen, because you're not going to be able to do anything about it unless you get your dryer out. And I just don't want to do that. I just want to work fast and show you a painting created all in one go. So I'm kind of feeling pretty good about where this is. Just get my little cloth out here. Get rid of those dots that I just put on there. Get rid of a little bit of moisture out of this section. Add a little bit more contrast to here. If I start getting too fussy, then it kills the painting a little bit. So, oh, happy accidents is when I drop the cloth, but that's okay. Look, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good with where this is. I'm just going to put a few more scrapes. What I'm doing here is I just noticed my palette, and I really liked that dioxide purple mixed with the green. It just takes it into a slightly more of a crimson realm. And, you know, when I see something happening on that palette, I want to bring it in a bit more on the painting. So I'm just going to grab my wedge, I'm going to rub it on my clothes so I'm nice and painted. My pants nearly stand up by themselves at the end of a painting session. I'm going to mix that purple and the green, and I'm going to just be a little bit wilder with it on the painting. I like it so much, I might even come over some of that green area with it. Sometimes I find when I get too practiced in my steps, I don't create those little magic moments. So I'm just getting a little bit looser for the last little bit. Okay, I'm just going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back in and find all the magical crops that can happen here and see what they'll look like when I get it into a frame. Okay, so now that it's dry, I've got just two bits of it's actually a mounting board that I split so that I can use it to just crop. And this is where this does the job of the tape. I bring it over and I move it across the painting to find my little happy accidents that happen by cropping in. I've got, you know, a sense of it while I'm painting to get some good changes between the darks and the lights. But until I bring these squares in and I find out exactly where these beautiful zones are, I don't know what I've really got. So I suggest you get yourself some of these. They're really, really good. They're really handy. You can get them in different sizes. And then you can find those beautiful bits where you've got some dark happening, some light happening, some contrast. You know, if I look up here, you've got these beautiful blues, this bright pink that's happening, and then this white line that just brings some composition to the whole piece that's really nice. So this is a really good way, a reverse way at doing the little squares, but actually starting with a big painting and then coming in afterwards and cropping into it. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to crop into the painting, and then I'm going to frame them and put them into a scene for you so you can see exactly how good you can get this work very, very quickly with some good cropping.